Hi everybody, welcome to week 3 of our research course. I really appreciate everybody's hanging in there, sticking in there. So hopefully you found your paper for week 2 to be a little bit easier to write than the one you wrote for week 1. And I'm anxious to get looking at those and starting to review those this evening. So again, it will take me a little while to get through them, but hopefully not quite as long as the first one. I think this paper's a little bit easier to grade as well as it was to write. Okay, so this week, oh my gosh, there's so much information to absorb this week for you guys. So in the lecture, we talk about literature search, which ultimately becomes the literature review section if you write up the study. Research questions, and then hypotheses. And your book spends, the assigned readings for this week spend quite a bit of time on the quantitative and also one chapter on the qualitative. I think we'll get a little bit more into the qualitative later. But the text, while the lecture, the written lecture, isn't too bad to get through, the text is quite dense, has a lot of information thrown at you all at once. I want to make a couple recommendations. First of all, if you do have your BSN research book, I think it's really helpful if you find a concept that's just mentioned in our textbook and you're not quite clear on it, looking it up in a BSN text would be helpful. Googling it would also be helpful, because I think the master's text that we're using assumes that you've got that BSN stuff kind of down pat. So that makes it a little bit difficult. But I don't want you to get so bogged down in all the details that you get lost in it. I do want you to understand that there are different types of designs. What are some of the things that we manipulate that are different between the designs? How are some of the ways that we control for bias? I really want you to pay attention in the quantitative side to validity and in the qualitative side to credibility. Those are things that are going to be really important to you as you're evaluating research articles and trying to say, is this something that I should really be depending on or using in my practice? So those sections are particularly important. I did also like Table 9.1 on page 185. It translates the social science terms, which a lot of nursing is formatted in the social science terms, and translates that into the pure medical research terms that are often quite different. Nursing, you will notice, our references are done in the American Psychological Association format, APA, and so we tend to use that whole social science paradigm and terminology and all that good stuff. And so I did like that table 9.1 that translated it over to the medical research. So take your time with the reading. This is definitely the time to lock yourself away, go through, take some notes to kind of like, okay, here are my research designs, what's the same and what's different. Because you want to know a little bit about it, and then as you're reading your articles, critiquing your articles, you'll probably want to identify the type of process being used, the research process being used, and then go back to that in your text, that particular section, and say, oh, this is what I should be seeing. Okay, so it's not something to be kind of lightly reading as you're watching TV. It doesn't work very well with the research text. Okay, assignment for this week. You're going to be using the same 2 articles that you just turned in for your quantitative qualitative review, and you're going to be doing a little more in-depth looking at them. The template that's provided, I think there was some confusion. The template isn't meant to write directly on. The template just gives you a summarization of all the points that have to be included. So you're going to write a totally separate paper that has all those points. And I think it even gave you directions as far as what level of headings to use and things like that. Make sure you use the rubric and make sure you follow that template really step by step. And that way you'll be sure to include everything that I'm going to have to score. Okay, so like I said, we're using the same articles, and what is interesting is I think the more you read and read those articles, you're going to find that you get new insights into them, that you'll truly understand what the researcher was aiming at. A lot of times with research articles, it takes a lot more than one read to really understand the deep meaning, how they arrived at it. I know that reading research articles maybe isn't the funnest thing that you've ever done. I enjoy reading research articles, but that's why I encouraged you to kind of pick topics that you were interested in. But I really think you'll find yourself learning quite a bit. The more and more you read the article and look at the type of research process being done, what kind of sample did they use? How did they pick that sample? Trying to look and be a detective, and what kind of bias did you find? It can really be fun. It just takes a little bit of an open mind. All right, so I will be finishing grading the CLC things that you turned in and giving you feedback on that. I will be starting to grade the week 2 papers. If you have questions about any of the assignments or anything this week, look at them ahead of time. Please be sure to ask me right away. I want to make sure that you really understand the directions. I think that's about it. It's going to be fun because your assignments correlate directly with your discussion questions. So it's almost like getting a bigger bang for the buck. So I'm looking forward to reading about them. I'm looking forward to seeing what thoughts you have about your articles. And all right, I'll see you in the main forum.